One, a memory that smells like rain. Do you ever wonder why some memories stick around, like the faint smell of old books on a rainy day? Have you ever found yourself laughing at something no one else even remembers? Right now, close your eyes. What's the first moment that drifts back to you? You're sitting alone tonight, the lamp throwing a soft glow across the room. Outside, you hear the gentle patter of rain on the porch roof, each drop sounding like a tiny heartbeat. You wrap your fingers around a warm mug of tea, chamomile, maybe, or that old favorite peppermint you keep for special nights. Tonight, your mind drifts to a letter you never sent. It's funny, isn't it? All the things we keep folded up inside us, like handwritten notes pressed between the pages of a book we keep meaning to finish. You pick at the edges of that memory, feeling it come alive under your fingertips. You remember the exact shade of the envelope you had ready, that soft cream color, a little too fancy for everyday mail. You had bought it at the corner store, the same place you always ended up buying milk, chewing gum, and those cookies you promised yourself you'd stop eating after turning 50. Well, that promise went about as well as your promise to finally learn how to salsa dance. As you sit there, you wonder what would have happened if you had just written those words. Would they have healed you? Would they have broken you a little more? You hear the whisper of your own voice inside. Maybe it was better this way, or maybe it wasn't. You shift in your chair, feeling a laugh bubble up at the memory of the first draft of that letter, the one where you accidentally signed off with, "Love, your old pal," like you were writing to an old fishing buddy instead of a lost love. You chuckle softly. Your heart feels lighter for a moment. Memories are funny that way. They can taste sweet, sting like salt, or just feel like warm rain washing over you. You let yourself sink deeper into that thought, wondering what other letters might be hidden in the corners of your mind. 2. The words you never wrote. You lean back in your chair now, feeling the curve of the wooden armrest under your fingers. The rain keeps playing its quiet song, like a friend humming in the next room. You remember the night you sat at your kitchen table, pen in hand, staring at that blank page for hours. You kept thinking the words would come, that maybe they were just shy, hiding in the folds of your mind like a kid behind the curtains during hide and seek. You even tried bribing yourself with another cup of tea and a slice of leftover pie. "Come on, just one sentence," you whispered to yourself, as if the words were an old dog refusing to come inside. The truth is, you knew exactly what you wanted to say. You wanted to tell them you missed them in the smallest ways, the way their laughter used to echo down the hallway, the way they left their keys on the counter like little breadcrumbs leading back home. You wanted to say sorry, too. Sorry for the sharp words, the silences that grew like weeds between you. But every time you tried to shape those feelings into letters on a page, they slipped away. You'd write a line, read it back, and feel like it was wearing someone else's shoes. Too stiff, too formal, or, heaven forbid, too dramatic. You weren't trying to audition for a soap opera, you just wanted to be honest. Somewhere around midnight, you remember muttering, "Maybe I'll just send them a pizza instead. Who can stay mad over pepperoni and extra cheese?" You laugh now at that thought, realizing how much easier it felt to joke than to confess. The pen stayed still, and the paper stayed blank. Instead of words, you ended up doodling tiny sailboats drifting across the page, little vessels carrying all the things you couldn't say. Looking back, you wonder if the silence was your real letter. The quiet said, "I'm not ready," or maybe, "I'm still hurting." Tonight, you feel that weight again, but somehow it's softer, like an old coat you keep in the closet, heavy but familiar. You pull it around your shoulders and listen to the rain as if it might finish the letter for you. 3. Laughing at ghosts. You smile now, tracing the rim of your mug with your finger. The warmth has seeped into your hands, and for a moment, it almost feels like someone's holding them. You tilt your head back and let out a long breath, the kind that feels like it's been waiting for years to leave your chest. You think about how odd it is, the way we find ourselves laughing at the strangest times. Like that evening you accidentally burned dinner because you got distracted reading old love letters you swore you threw away. You ended up eating cereal for dinner, standing barefoot in the kitchen, giggling at the smoky mess. You told yourself, "Gourmet chef, right?" Gordon Ramsay would be proud. There's something about ghosts, not the spooky, sheet-wearing kind, but the quiet ghosts of moments and people who live rent-free in the attic of your mind. They show up uninvited when you're driving home at sunset or when you hear an old song on the radio. You find yourself chuckling, shaking your head, saying, "Well, would you look at that?" Like you're greeting an old neighbor who always borrowed your lawnmower and never gave it back. Even tonight, as you think about that unsent letter, a little laugh bubbles up. You remember how you once tried to write a serious poem for them, but ended up rhyming love with glove, and not even in a clever way. You crumpled up the paper so fast you nearly sprained your wrist. Those ghosts, they don't always haunt you. Sometimes they dance around in your living room, dragging you along for one last waltz. You let them twirl you under the dim kitchen light, your socks slipping on the linoleum floor. You're half expecting the dog to join in or the cat to roll its eyes from the corner. The thing is, these silly, tender moments are little life preservers. They keep you afloat when the silence feels too deep. You realize laughter doesn't always mean you're over it. Sometimes it just means you're learning to breathe again, one snort or giggle at a time. You look around the room, imagining the shadows of old jokes still hanging in the air like party balloons long after the guests have gone. And for a second, it feels like home. 4. The peace you didn't expect. You set your mug down gently now, the echo of ceramic on wood sounding like a quiet heartbeat. You lean back, eyes half closed, listening to the rain slip down the window in thin, shining trails. Funny, you always thought peace would arrive with trumpets blaring, confetti falling from the sky, maybe even a marching band playing your favorite tune. But no, it snuck in softly, like a stray cat curling up at your feet. There was a time you believed that letter would be the thing to set you free. You imagined mailing it and watching the words float away like dandelion seeds, each sentence carrying a little piece of your pain. But somehow not sending it became its own kind of release. You learned that sometimes letting go isn't about pushing something away, it's about letting it sit beside you without asking it to leave. You chuckle softly, remembering the countless drafts you tore up, each one more dramatic than the last. One of them started with "Dearest." You had to stop yourself right there. "What am I? A Victorian poet," you laughed, tossing it into the trash. The kitchen looked like a snowstorm of crumpled paper balls, your dog suspiciously eyeing each one as if it might be a hidden treat. It's strange, isn't it? You always thought closure needed a grand finale, a big speech, or some neat cinematic ending. But here you are, years later, realizing peace doesn't always arrive with answers. It often shows up with quiet acceptance, a deep breath at sunrise, or the simple joy of making yourself a perfectly buttered piece of toast. You start to notice other small freedoms, the way you now hum to yourself while washing dishes, or the way you've stopped checking your phone at midnight, hoping for a message that never came. Little by little, these habits stitch together a gentle quilt of calm. And while you may still hear echoes of the words you never wrote, you don't flinch anymore. You sit with them, like old friends who overstay their welcome but don't bother you quite as much as they used to. You realize that sometimes the peace you were looking for isn't in the letter, but in the quiet you found after deciding not to send it. 5. When silence speaks louder, you can almost hear your heartbeat now, slow and steady, echoing softly under the hush of the rain. You pull your sweater a little tighter around your shoulders, the fabric carrying the faint scent of old laundry soap and something warm you can't quite name. In this moment, you feel the weight of every word you never wrote, and every word you never needed to. There's a kind of music in that silence, a gentle melody that plays only for you when the world finally quiets down. You think of how often you used to reach for noise, a phone call, a television humming in the background, the clatter of dishes in the sink. All of it was a way to fill the space where those unsent words lived. Now, you listen differently. You notice the small creaks of the house settling for the night, the soft, rhythmic tapping of your thumb against your mug. You even hear the whisper of your own thoughts, ones that used to terrify you in the stillness. They aren't as scary anymore. You say to yourself, "Look at us, finally having a decent conversation." And you laugh, that warm, low laugh that comes from deep in the belly. It turns out that sometimes the silence says all the things the letter never could. It tells you that you've grown, that you've forgiven a little. Maybe not everything, but enough to let the night feel gentle again. It reminds you that the love you thought needed an audience was really just a quiet invitation to come home to yourself. You wonder if somewhere out there, the person you never wrote to is also listening to their own rain tonight. Maybe they're holding a memory of you, or maybe they've let it drift away like a paper boat down a sleepy stream. You smile at that thought, realizing you don't need to know. As your eyes grow heavy, you feel the hush wrap around you like a favorite old quilt. You let out one last slow breath, as if you're finally setting down a suitcase you didn't realize you'd been carrying for decades. And in that tender final moment, you hear the softest echo inside you, a hush that feels like a whisper. Sometimes the echoes of yesterday whisper the loudest when you finally let the silence hold you. But tonight, as you sit there with the rain for company, you realize something important. Maybe the real lesson isn't about sending letters or saying all the right words at the perfect time. It's about learning to listen to yourself before you speak to anyone else. You understand now that waiting too long to share what's in your heart can turn simple words into heavy stones. Sometimes the words we swallow today become the regrets we carry tomorrow. And you think to yourself, next time maybe I'll be a little braver. Maybe I'll speak when the feeling is still warm in my hands. You don't want to keep feelings folded up like old receipts in a drawer. You want to live in a way where love or hurt or joy can move freely, like sunlight through an open window. You promise yourself gently that you'll try. You'll say the things that matter, even if your voice shakes a little, even if your jokes come out awkward and your poems rhyme love with glove again. Because in the end, it's not about crafting the perfect letter. It's about showing up right here in this imperfect, beautiful mess of a life and letting someone know they matter before they become a ghost in your mind. And that, you think, is the quiet, golden wisdom you carry forward.